You're listening to the After the Show movie podcast from ascully.com. You can find this podcast on the iTunes Music Store, Google Play, YouTube, voice assistants, just say listen to After the Show movie podcast. And you can also find us on ascully.com where we post written reviews. With that out of the way, here are your hosts, A Scully and Sid Talk. Good morning, good morning, good morning, good evening, and good night. Sid Talk.
No one's apparently listening in the afternoon.
I wonder when people listen to our podcast. In the morning, in the evening, or in the afternoon?
Take a poll. I'm sure everyone will rush to whatever device they have to send you
Straw
a note.
poll.
A what?
Straw poll.
What's that?
It's where you, I don't know, it's called a straw poll, right? Where they quickly make a poll.
I don't know. I feel like that's 100 years old, that phrase.
It probably is. It probably
Anyway,
is.
we're moving on with the show.
What's the before?
I
the
rarely
after the
say
show?
anyway. That's so annoying.
You
Because
do
I
say
tell my
anyway.
mother. I do not.
You just said it.
I just did, but I never do because my mother does it. She'll be like, blah, 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 blah. Anyway. And I'll go, no, not anyway. Whatever you were just saying. Whatever.
You mean she uses it as a vehicle to get off the topic?
Yeah, topics that she starts. Well, so-and-so was just really jerky or whatever. Blah, blah, blah. Anyway. And I'm like, no, not anyway. Tell me the rest of that story. Like,
I see.
so I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. Don't want to be my mother.
So what's the before the after the show discussion?
There wasn't much to it. You were over there reading stuff about this movie, and I was over here tinkering.
All right, so
about it.
we'll move into the show. Saturday, September the 28th. This is after the show number 601. The day after. The show after the 600th show.
Yeah, which absolutely was nothing. You did nothing special, and so we're just going to forget that it's ever special.
That was yesterday. And
That
today,
was yesterday.
we're looking at the movie Yesterday.
All the podcasts seem so far away.
No
That was
to,
my little band called the Beatles, but you might not remember them.
No to Hollywood. If you
Spoiler alert.
if you watched American Idol season 1, I guess, you'll know what No to Hollywood means. Anyway, the movie's Yesterday. It's a 2019 movie released. It's out now on 4K, Blu-ray, digital, all of the ways you can watch movies. It's from our friends at Universal who sent us a copy of the 4K for review. It's rated PG-13. And Sid Talk will give you the synopsis of Yesterday, and then I'll give you the real one.
Are we spoiling everything? Because it's kind of hard not to.
Well, what it says on the front cover of the movie, which anybody who buys this movie...
Oh, we're skipping to this part now?
No.
Because my synopsis, I don't know how to synopsisize it.
This is when I was saying to you, you were saying, are we spoiling everything? Well, I'll read this off the front cover. This is not the synopsis, though.
Okay.
It's just on the front cover of the movie. Everyone in the world has forgotten the Beatles. Everyone except Jack.
There you go. There's your synopsis.
All right.
That's it.
So there is a long, drawn-out synopsis, but it pretty much tells you. We're going to have some spoilers in this show because it'd be hard to talk about this movie without spoilers.
I mean, that pretty much does it. It tells you that everyone forgot except for him.
Yeah.
And then if you had that knowledge, it's like having a time machine, going back in time when no one knows the lottery numbers. So, or that, for example, Harry Potter existed, or that so-and-so won the race that day, or the invention for like plastic, or, the recipe for plastic, whatever that is. And you go back in time and do that thing yourself because no one knows any different. That's the premise, really.
Yeah.
There's no time travel.
True.
Could be, though. It's Danny Boyle. You never know.
And Richard Curtis, who loves a bit of time travel.
Does he?
What were we just talking about?
No,
before
that
the
one
show?
movie. Yeah, I'm not a fan of that one.
He also wrote an episode of Doctor Who. Or many episodes of Doctor Who, but there we go. So, this movie written
Doctor
by...
Who?
Who?
There's a joke from this movie.
Who?
But not exactly in this movie.
Who?
referencing something that like you think everyone knows, but then them going, what?
Yeah, exactly.
But that's how this marriage works sometimes, because I'll say something from 1970s American TV that's like humongous, that of course everyone in the world would know about, and you go, I've never heard of that. And I'm just like, what are you talking about?
That does happen quite often.
You are from another time
But then
period.
I'll also say something about a British show.
Yeah, but that's different.
No, it's not.
American shit, for whatever reason, it's not me, I didn't do it, seems to go all over the world,
This
and other
sounds
things
very
don't.
braggalicious of you.
It's not braggalicious, it's out of my control, but it's just that people do know more. And there are things that aren't just on in America. I've looked them up after you've said, I don't know what that is, and I'm like, look here on Wikipedia, it says it was on in the 80s in England.
But guess what? It doesn't mean I watched it.
You should have.
Or even knew about it. I did watch The Love Boat, though, which was very good. Very good American show.
The what? The what boat?
The Love Boat.
That's how this movie is. People mention a thing and people go, what?
Yeah, so this movie, everyone in the world has forgotten the Beatles, everyone except Jack.
And there's an incident in the beginning that all the electricity, something happens and the whole world goes like click, it turns off, and then it turns back on. At the same time, our hero gets hit by a bus and is unconscious. Therefore, for some reason, he's not been affected by this weirdness, and he discovers after he wakes up that people have no knowledge of the Beatles or anything to do with the Beatles whatsoever.
Right. Now, let me say, I really love this movie. It's one of my favorite movies I've watched this year. I'll say that right up front. What about you?
I think it was really good. I give it a 9.5.
Yeah, it's the
only thing I can say about it that is, it's not even a negative. It's just that I'm not wholly convinced that from what they show us and the vibe they're giving us, that he's actually, I'm not getting the vibe that he is world famous all of a sudden, that he's just like screaming crowds at his feet and that he's become the most famous songwriter in the whole world. I mean, They hint at it and then you're supposed to just sort of jump on board with that. That is messing to me completely. Other than that, everything else is perfect.
Because it's done on a smaller scale. It's not like it feels smaller, doesn't
all they have to do is a few scenes where it's like you give us the reminiscence of the Elvis crowd or the Beatles crowd or something like that.
You have the fact that he's playing in Russia, and you have the fact that
but that's the first time and he wasn't famous yet.
He's on the James Corden show.
Yeah, but that, you know what? James Corden don't mean shit to me, boy. He's nothing. It's like, that's just some dumb night show that I know nothing about. So to me, that's nothing. It's got like 12 people watching.
It's like being on David Letterman, though, isn't it?
I don't think so.
I don't think it is.
I don't think so.
I think Jimmy Fallon and James Corden.
If you had put him on the David Letterman show, like David Letterman came out of retirement in this movie to do an episode with this guy, then I'd be like, oh, he's a big deal.
So this has got that fun, it's a fantasy element to it.
Little magic, unexplained magic, which I like, i.e. Groundhog Day.
Obviously features the music of the Beatles. Now, you know when he gets hit by the bus and then wakes up the day after and starts slowly realizing, shit, he's a kind of a mediocre musician. Mm-hmm. But he sings well, but he's not going anywhere, kind of. He's trying, but not. And he, being a musician, almost to me, he's thinking of the Beatles and people are like going, huh? What? Who? And he slowly realizes that that's the thing. And then he starts to, write down all the songs and record, try to pass them off as he recorded them. And that was a thing where I was like, that's kind of shitty, because he just wants to profit. Like if the other story that you just mentioned, where you wake up and you know everything about yesterday and nobody about the actual day. About yesterday.
Tomorrow, yeah. And then you can go back to
bet on everything and stuff, yeah. That, everybody knows that story. And this is like that, but, he's taken advantage, right? But then that haunts him throughout the movie.
I don't feel like it haunts him either, but I don't feel like that he's being nefarious about it.
No, you know what? I did at first. I was like, oh, that's shit. He just wants to make money and become famous. But then I was like, because it is mentioned later on, that he wants to, people should know these songs. Mm-hmm. These songs have disappeared from the world and people should know them. Now, but it's not clear at the beginning what his motivation is. Is it just to become famous and rich? Or is it to do that?
Yeah.
But So at first I was like, oh, that's shitty. You wake up and now you want to pass all these songs off as yours and just become rich and famous? To what end? Like, just to become rich and famous, right? But there's a because this is a Richard Curtis script, there's a love story in the core of the movie.
It's a very heavy love story.
Yeah, and it's one of those, like, you know, what do you choose kind of thing. You choose the fame and fortune.
It's based on somebody who's too fucking wishy-washy to just man up, so to speak, because he is a man, identifies as a male, and never fucking tells this woman that he loves her. That's a wishy-washy thing. I'll throw that in with my negative part. I just hate those kind of people. So,
but that's
what the story
core
is.
Of the story.
Yeah, he was too like, oh, I didn't realize that I loved you for 20 years.
Yeah, because she was literally his school friend.
Yeah, and she's fawning over him, and she's now his manager, and she's totally his number one supporter, and he's just like, ooh, you know.
Even his friend like says, "Have you not been with her yet?" Like, you're like, what the hell? What are you missing? Like, you know, people even keep telling him that.
Yeah, and because I don't understand that, I'm a very confrontational, forward type of person. I always think that's just sort of this dreamy, like in Love Actually, when What's-Her-Face has the brother, and she's too...
What's her face?
You know, Laura Linney has the brother, and then she doesn't want to, like, ask the guy out at work. And then she does, but then she keeps, like, oh, you know, like, poor sacrificing me. I have to take care of my brother. Yeah, I mean, I like Laura Linney, but that's my least favorite story because it's like, I don't know. It's like a literary love story, not like a real life love story.
Yeah, and this it's a very fluffy kind of romantic love story, and it's not like deep or complicated. True. It's pretty straightforward. It's like Love Actually. If you like Love Actually, the way that all plays out, it makes you feel happy, doesn't it? Love Actually, no matter.
Here's the question: do you like Love Actually?
Yes, it's my favorite romantic comedy of all time.
I'd say it's one of your top movies of all time.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's very rewatchable too. I don't know if that's just me, but it's funny. I don't think it feels aged that much. It's just funny, there's a bunch of different stories in that. That's one of my favorite That's one of my favorite modes of movies. That's why I like Magnolia so much.
Yeah, well, that's about as opposite of Love.
That's the opposite. That's
Magnolia on this side.
Actually, Love Actually and Magnolia share the same kind of framework.
Maybe Black Swan is the opposite of Love Actually. What do you reckon? And Magnolia hits somewhere on that scale, but closer to Black Swan.
I guess Magnolia has some love in it, but I mean there is.
It's
but
very
it's
depressing.
Quite depressing. But
There's nothing depressing in Love Actually at all.
No, there isn't. It's all.
I mean,
well, there
Liam
is.
Neeson's
The
wife
kid
died.
loses. Yeah, that. I mean, there are some sad parts the sad parts are just in Love Actually to make it more happy when they overcome the sad bits. Mm-hmm. It's just to make those bits amplified when they actually come. But yesterday is, Richard Curtis puts together. I said to you, it doesn't feel particularly real. It's a bit heightened. Everything's a bit kind of comedy.
Yeah.
Like sitcom-ish almost. It's a bit, like the interaction with Jack in this movie and his parents and stuff. It's all very, don't feel exactly, it feels like a soap opera a little bit.
Yeah.
But I think that's the way Curtis writes it.
So speaking of soap opera, where did our little star come from?
Oh, the star of this movie, who most Americans will have no idea because they won't have ever seen him
before. We're very proud of him.
Yeah, Hamish Patel. He came from the British soap opera EastEnders,
which we watched him from the very first day he was ever on there as a little baby actor.
Oh, he wasn't a baby for 9 years.
He was a teenager, but he was really good. And I remember he was my favorite thing of that whole family.
Yeah, he was. That family have dissolved and they're not even in it.
Well,
anymore. Just
the nieces and the aunt and uncle, but yeah.
Yeah.
That's soap opera talk, and the people who don't watch a soap opera will be like, what are you talking
Americans
about?
will just be like, oh, this is a new actor. We've never seen him before, because this is like his first big
True.
thing. So the story of this, I really liked it. I think it was pretty clever. I liked how they integrated like Ed Sheeran into it.
Yeah.
It was like a surprise. I was like, whoa. Because I explained why Ed Sheeran turns up.
Well, the story is about a young man who's sort of just making his way. He's not a right musician. He's not really getting along. And then all of a sudden something makes him a worldwide phenomenon. And sort of the struggle of that a little bit. Right. Not much struggle in this one. But Ed Sheeran said after on the extras, it's like his life. He was nothing. And then all of a sudden he's dealing with the world fame thing. And they sort of didn't really mention why. But at some point he and Richard and Danny, that'd be Danny Boyle and Richard, what's his face, all are having supper together. The three of them at someone's house.
Right.
So then you're like, do just famous people just flock together all the time?
Yeah, probably.
Were they friends? Or did Richard Harris think, I'm going to get
Richard
that guy.
Harris.
Is that his name?
Curtis.
Richard
Harris is another guy.
He was there
famous
too?
Actor.
Is he famous?
Yeah.
He's there too. Just thought, I want to get him in this movie, so I'm going to invite him over for supper. My people will call his people. I don't know. So I just thought that was interesting. But Ed Sheeran liked the concept. And then he was just in it as himself. He's not being like a
he turns
character.
up as himself. It's quite funny. He makes fun of himself.
Oh my God, it's hilarious.
For instance, his phone rings and it's his song "Shape of You" is the actual ringtone.
And you're like, do they just want to portray him as like a self-absorbed twat?
But it's interesting because, well, exactly. There's a scene in this movie where Ed Sheeran's taken an interest because he's, this kid is all of a sudden writing these fantastic songs, and he's like, oh, I'm going to get involved in that. And there's this scene where he's in a room and Ed Sheeran, who's trying to, see how good this kid really is, he's like, okay, let's both go off in 2 rooms and we'll both write a song. And let's see who's the best song. And what does Mr. Jack go and write?
I don't remember which one it was.
I think it's Long and Winding Road.
The Long and Winding Road.
So, known as one of the best songs.
Do we have to pay for that since I sang it so beautifully?
Probably. One of the best, known as one of the best songs, wrote songs of all time. He just goes in the room and writes that down on a piece of paper. And Ed Sheeran's like, oh yeah, I give, you are better than me. Like...
But there's one of the criticisms that you read in your reviews that we'll get to later from IMDb. I totally think is valid that we're applying how much we already know the impact of Beatles music on all of us and all of the world. I mean, I'm not a huge Beatles fan, but I get it. I understand it's woven into my life.
Everybody's.
Yeah, so I get it. So am I giving these songs, like when I hear The Long and Winding Road or Yesterday, Let It Be, these songs that when you're listening, you're bringing all of that with you, right? I'm not hearing it for the first time fresh, like a person would have in the 60s, and then for some reason falling in love with the whole of the Beatles experience, right, back then, and for the last 50, 60 years. So when he's trying to make these songs famous again... Are we saying those songs are just magic inherently and that people just fall in love with them blindly?
That's kind of what this film is saying, yeah.
Or, are they actually the best songs? Because some of the people in the movie acknowledge, even his girlfriend's like, it's all right. And he's like, it's all right. Yeah, it's like one of the pivotal rock songs of all time.
It's like
and
she's a work of art.
She's like, you're getting really cocky. Because he's saying it, he wrote it. And he's like, no, it's one of the best songs ever written. So he brings... a lifetime of Beatles knowledge. She's listening to it just as a song.
Right.
Right. Did it take 20 years after the Beatles released all their first stuff for people to start going, oh my God, you're geniuses? Kind of after the kerfuffle of them being famous. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I don't think they were known as geniuses right away because their early stuff was just like really
I don't think
stuff.
I Want to Hold Your Hand was like knocking anybody's heads off with like genius or anything.
It's when they got into their, White Album phase was when people were like, whoa, what the hell is this group?
Listen to you. You sound like a pro.
They change with the times. They do. If you go back and listen to the Beatles catalogue.
So they're sellouts then?
No, they're just very creatively. They weren't stuck to one thing.
Okay, now in the past you've said Madonna is a sellout because she just changes with the trends. But the Beatles, when they do it, they're geniuses.
You can't compare them.
I'm just saying. We're bringing our knowledge of all the Beatles with us on this journey. And in the movie, it is a fair point to say, but would these songs mean anything to anyone other than the ones that are super catchy and like kind of deep and meaningful? But the rest of them wouldn't have that like instant screaming crowd, kind of a thing.
But in this movie, like Hamish Patel.
Is it Hamish? Because it's Himash.
Yeah, well, that's all I've ever heard it said. So,
but it's HI. It's
people
not HA.
say Hamish all the time. Even
Okay.
Danny Boyle said Hamish. So,
okay.
So, in this, he sings the songs. You don't hear the Beatles versions until the end credits. There's a Beatles song playing, but they're still very powerful, right? When he sings "Yesterday," which is the first song he sings to his friends just after he's had the accident, and they're all like, "Oh, play us something with your new guitar," and he plays "Yesterday," and they're all kind of, one of the girls is welling up, and it's even somebody else singing it is powerful, right? And like you say, you bring a lot of stuff with it.
But is it? Because that's a fictional listening to of it. So us listening to it,
but even that was powerful for me.
Right, but because you know of the Beatles. If it was you back in 1964, let's pretend you were born, whenever they wrote it and played it for someone for the first time, literally ever on the planet, did it have that impact? Or is it just because now they're the Beatles? We're the Beatles,
Yeah.
But I like the idea that Danny Boyle does bring a little bit of magic to things, and so I was thinking, is that what we're saying, that that the magic of the Beatles, it's just had such an impact on the world that it's not the same place without them. We have to have it. Somebody has to remember and bring all of that back to the world.
Which is, in this case, Jack.
Yeah.
At first you think, oh, he's just a money-greedy, fame-hungry
But he doesn't
musician.
come off that way. He doesn't play it that way. They don't make him that kind of character.
No, because he's kind of sweet and nice, and you can't help but like him, right?
Yeah.
He's not like I'm going to be
He's not
famous.
like the lady manager, Ed Sheeran's manager, who's hilarious.
Yeah, so this movie's got a lot going for it there. It's got a lot of strands. Obviously, the Beatles' music's a big draw for people. He sings it really well.
Well, we think so. Not everyone will
They
think so.
handle it really well. The way it's dispersed throughout the movie. It's not just musical number after music. It's not like that, is it? It's a good balance of music and script. And the love story itself, I thought was really touching. I liked it. It's a bit. If I had to complain, which I won't, because I like this movie.
But you are, because you're about to say it.
If you had a problem with his other movies like Love Actually being too sappy, this is obviously super sappy. Like it's on the overboards of sappiness, right?
Yeah.
But that's what it is. It doesn't pretend to be something else, something really serious or something. It's quite funny as well, right? I mean, it is a comedy at heart. There's a lot of funny lines in it.
It's got a little bit of that British goofiness going on that sometimes you kind of roll your eyes like, okay, that's like over the top.
Like Love Actually, when Mr. Bean's in the
yes, that sort of like wackiness.
Yeah.
And you're like, can we all grow up a little bit? But it's got a little bit of that. Not too bad.
But it's charming, I find.
I love that you think it's charming because you grew up with it.
Yeah, this kind of comedy. And the conclusion to it, we won't talk fully about the ending, but I thought it was satisfying and fun.
I agree.
And about the, Ed Sheeran, who is also in the movie, he was on a tour at the time, so they actually used like his performance at the O2, which is a huge, no, not the O2, Wembley actually.
Yeah.
They use that integrated into the movie, so that actually feels really, like when we watched Bohemian Rhapsody, it was like a CG thing, wasn't it, that they did to put them into Live Aid. But it was kind of cool. This is actually Hamish Patel work it, on the stage, on Ed Sheeran's stage singing, which I
in front of however many people they said, 100,000 people.
Does Ed Sheeran sing a song in this? Oh, he does. He sings the Penguin song, a song about a penguin. So
and then it has one of his songs over the top, I think, at one point.
It has over the ending part where he's driving with her back. Yeah. It plays one of his songs.
Is that him? Because he claims he wrote it.
Yeah, it's him. That's what I said to you in the alternate ending on this. It shows you him singing it, doesn't it, in the car? And I said, "You've ripped that off Ed Sheeran. It's one of his songs." So if you like Ed Sheeran, you like the Beatles. There's a lot of that in there. Anything else you want to add to the plot and before we go on to the actors?
I don't think so, because I got very moved many times at the idea in our lifetime, and it's not just our lifetime, but if you go back to, like, I don't mean to sound history nerdy here or anything, and I'm not, but if you go back to, like, maybe 1890, right, radio starts being a thing, right, 1880s, 1890, if I've got my timeline correct.
Yes.
So people do start listening to radio, music, entertainment, like, fed right to their homes or right to their business or right to wherever they are, to where you can start having a different kind of impact from an artist of any kind. It could be, one of the dumb radio shows that was on, comedy or drama, or as the 10s and 20s went on, it was radio shows and musical shows. And so you could start getting affected more than before that time in history. You would have to have gone to a show, right? So the mass of the entire world wouldn't have known of very many people. Like, the name of a person who's an entertainer wouldn't have traveled around the entire world, where if you went to Zimbabwe or Canada or China or Russia, that you walked into a place and said, the Beatles, or whoever,
right.
Joe Schmo, that everyone knew who it was and understood, like, other than just legendary or reading a newspaper clipping or something, or in a book or whatever. Until that time frame, until like just before we're born, in the 60s, 50, 60 years before that it started.
Yep.
But the impact on humanity now, of a handful of folks that we know of, and I don't mean like they changed the world, like cured cancer or solved wars or anything. I'm just saying everyone in the world will know who Ringo Starr is, Paul McCartney, John Lennon, the Beatles. And we went on earlier, we were talking about Michael Jackson, Madonna, Elvis Presley, and now Ed Sheeran. I think on a different kind of scale, but same idea. That if you went to any country in the world and held up a picture of Ed Sheeran, somebody's going to know who that is and be a fan, right?
Right.
So the impact of the emotion of thinking like, my God, if you subtracted these things from the world right now, erased them, that moved me. Like, as a group of humans, we all know who they are.
Yeah, and we all...
we have a thing in common. We may not all like them. I mean, we don't sit around and listen to Beatles music all day, but we all identify probably with at least one song. Somebody somewhere in the world, however terrible life might be, has possibly heard a Beatles song and it changed their day, or it's a thing that they hold on to for hope or entertainment, whatever it is. That's a thing we all have in common. And if you unplug that and unplug other things and then make a joke, because like in the movie also he mentions Coke. Can I not have a Coke instead of a Pepsi?
Yeah,
and they're like,
I mentioned that, yeah.
A what? So Coke has also been erased. I'm not saying Coke is a great thing in the world, but again, the whole world has it in common. All of humanity that exists right this minute, 8 billion people, probably have a very tiny handful of these cultural things in common.
What else is in this movie? What else has disappeared? Apart from the Beatles and Coke.
Harry Potter.
And what else?
Which is really funny. I think that was all.
Cigarettes.
Oh, cigarettes, yeah. I mean, they could be named something else, but we don't see anyone smoking in the movie or whatever.
No, he says, I wish I could have a cigarette right now. Mm-hmm. And his friend goes, what?
Yeah, but they could be called something else, because he doesn't say what it is.
Right. No, I feel like they were implying that had gone too. There's things that have gone.
But that's not emotionally moving. But the idea that, yeah, that made me very emotional at different times. Like the idea that if you strip away the things that we all can connect to together, then we got nothing.
Music is a common bond for
Definitely
sure.
Music, yeah. And for some reason, popular culture and things like that, entertainment, do spread around more. Like we don't all know the names of the most important scientists or doctors of the planet.
Or books, for instance. We don't all know the names of the most important books.
Well...
because not everybody reads books.
Important is a subjective word, but like something that cures something about humanity or in the world, we don't all share those things in common because, let's be honest, most people think it's boring.
Right.
But Ed Sheeran and the Beatles and Elvis Presley and Madonna and I'm sure.
Michael Jackson.
Michael Jackson. A lot of these people are American. Have you noticed? I mean, the Beatles weren't, and Ed Sheeran isn't.
Ed Sheeran's not.
But
American.
still. There have to be people from all over the world who have that. I'm just not thinking of them, which is terribly egotistical, I know, or self-centric or whatever it is. But that made me very emotional beyond what was actually happening in the movie.
Yeah. It's a very clever combination of things, this movie, that can definitely make you feel, wow, yeah, the Beatles music is important.
But,
not just the Beatles music. Music in general is important.
The thing is, if everyone forgot it, it wouldn't be important because no one would know it's missing.
That's
but when you take it away and somebody realizes it, it's like, if I add this back in.
I do really like these kind of what-if scenarios.
Yeah, I do too.
And especially when it kind of borders on kind of goofy a little bit, because it is a bit magical, this, isn't it, what happens? Even the way it's portrayed. Did you notice when it cut out to the world, all the lights going off, it was actually the universal globe.
Oh, was it?
Yeah. From the movies. The universal CG globe with all the lights going off. So, let's move on to the cast here. Well, we mentioned Hamish Patel. He plays Jack, the main character. We feel like he's our little boy from EastEnders.
I know.
I feel like
I'm protective of him.
Yeah, it's weird, isn't it, that? Because I was like, he played, the character he played in EastEnders was called...
Oh my God, now that you're asking me, it just disappeared.
It disappeared from me, that's why I asked you.
Tamwar.
Tamwar.
Yeah.
And he was an Indian family, moved in on this square. The EastEnders is a soap opera. He lived on the square with his family. And they had a lot of interesting cultural, like their family was involved in some storylines that were cultural, even Tamwar himself. But we watched him for 9 years on the screen. Every night. Well, 4 times a week, right? Mm-hmm. And you feel...
He's good.
You feel like you've got some kind of connection to him. It's weird. So when you see him in this movie as the lead of the movie, you're like, oh, he grew up. But I think he's actually outstanding in this movie. His performances of the songs, and it's not bogus in this movie. He's not lip-syncing to somebody. You can tell he's like, it's literally his, the words and the breaths that are coming out of his mouth are just him. He recorded all the songs at Abbey Road Studios, which adds another Beatles element to it. How did you like him singing?
Excellent.
Did you like his singing?
Yes, but I'm biased. It's like putting my nephew on there and any of the plays he's ever done, but like, yes, he's a genius.
And I'm saying, like, most reviews you'll probably hear from American reviewers. They're not going to know who this guy is. British
and
people.
I'm totally acknowledging my bias, and he may not be as good as I think, but I think he's really good. I like his reactions. I like the way he is who he is. So he has some of his affectations, even that he had in EastEnders, of that pause.
Where he's real dry.
Looking at a person like that? Really? Are you for real? Right now? And then saying the thing. And I just think he's really good. But I will put my hands up and say I am not totally, objective.
Lily James plays Ellie Appleton, the female lead.
She's good. She's a little too cutesy at times with her behavior, but she's good.
She's very cutesy in the Richard Curtis cutesy way.
True.
The way that you might not like in Love Actually, how cute, when he goes to the sign with the, Pirates of the Caribbean. Mm-hmm. What the hell is she called?
You're asking me questions on the fly. I can't just bring up these people's names. You mean her real name?
Keira Knightley. Keira Knightley's character in Love Actually.
And Rick Grimes.
Yeah, and Rick Grimes is in there too.
See, he had a bad plan. Even back then, he had a bad plan. Hitting on a married woman with a bunch of pieces of paper and a song.
But Lily James here plays it in that. It's how...
Precious.
I feel like it's how Richard Curtis writes it down is how she plays it. It's sweet. She's very sweet. She's very, she's an ordinary girl.
She's a woman. She's a teacher.
Woman, ordinary teacher. She's a teacher, She's really charming. You can't help but like her.
I mean, I do like her, but I like her anyway. Right. The actress.
But separating her from the actress, the character you like, right? There's never a moment
I
where
like kind of, except she's so wishy-washy that she's never asserted herself in this relationship, which I also do not. I don't admire that at all. I find that like not a respectable quality in a human being. So when you pull that out on me, I just think, what's wrong with you? Like, if you've loved him for 20 years or 10 years or whatever it's been since they were kids, and you just don't do anything about it, then stop whining. Just get on with your life.
Yeah, she kind of like put it to him like, I've been just kind of looking at you for all this time. And
first of all, that's creepy.
Yeah, in that way. And you just seem to not, like, because he's a bit more aloof and like, well, he's
just
also
kind of like a dumb guy.
He always loved her, right? But
yeah, see, I don't go for those love stories because I think it's...
Because they made a point of like...
It's made up. It's not like real.
I mean, there probably are love stories like that. People who are like kind of never can confront somebody and then...
Then you know what? Don't whine about it. Don't be all like, oh, my heart is broken because I never kissed her. Just shut up and move on. You should have kissed her and you didn't.
But it's very love, romance novel kind of
exactly.
Thing,
it's very literary. It's written on a piece of paper in a way that makes you go, oh, so romantic. It's not romantic when someone doesn't tell you how they feel.
But they both pull it off really well. I
agree.
I was rooting for them. You know what I'm saying? So Ed Sheeran plays Ed Sheeran.
He was fine.
It's really funny when he turns up at his house and Jack's like, oh my God, Ed Sheeran. And he goes in the kitchen and his dad's rummaging around the kitchen and his dad looks at him and he goes, you look like Ed Sheeran. And he goes, I am Ed Sheeran. He goes, oh, well done.
Well done.
So, yeah, this is funny. It's funny. Like, Ed Sheeran is obviously having fun with it. And he makes fun of himself. And he ain't the greatest actor.
No, he's just, he's fine.
He's just being him, isn't he?
Yeah.
Which is all that's required because that's what he is in the story. So, Joel Frye plays Rocky. And Rocky's he becomes Jack's roadie, basically. What do you think of Rocky? I mean, he's the comic relief character, isn't he?
Yeah, at first I really hated him because I was like, oh my God, can we not have a bumbling stoner idiot? But then he kind of grew on me.
I also felt the same.
When he's on the airplane and his hair's too tall, but they're not really addressing that. It's just his hair's like squished
smashing
down.
on the ceiling. And he's really inappropriate with his jokes.
But I got to where I appreciated him. And when he said, all my life I've thought I had no reason for being here and you've given me that purpose. I was like, okay, I like this character.
It was sweet, yeah. But yeah, at first I was like, oh, this is that character. It's going to be really annoying, isn't it?
And it was.
Occasionally. Yeah. I mean, he didn't go overboard with it, I guess. And then finally, Kate McKinnon, who you'll all know from Saturday Night Live if you're American and you watch comedy on TV, plays Deborah Hammer.
I'm American and I watched some comedy and I didn't know who she was. So I don't know if that's a fair statement.
I knew who she was, but only from clips I've seen of her play.
I haven't watched Saturday Night Live since, and I'm being honest here, probably since Eddie Murphy was on it.
Right. She was in the new...
I have to look up now what year that was.
She was in the new Ghostbusters movie, but we never bothered to watch that one, right?
Yeah, but she was really funny. I loved the character because it was like, oh... And when he said...
Why is she first?
She becomes his manager. She's Ed Sheeran's manager, and now she becomes his manager. So, all of the stereotypical money-grubbing... And, of course, Ed Sheeran, and he's being interviewed in real life, says she's so American. So LA. And I'm like, fuck off with your American jokes. What is wrong with being... Yeah, she was kind of bitchy, and she's like rude all the time, and I kept thinking she's not rude. She's not rude.
She's just forward.
My favorite line, I think, in the whole movie is when
Control yourself.
They listen to his song. He's played some Beatles songs. They don't know they're Beatles songs, and then he stuck one of his songs in there, and she's sitting there. She's like, "Well, I hated it." And it's like I hated it so much, I didn't want to listen to it again to figure out why I hated it. And then she's sitting, like, he's a foot away from her face. They're sitting in, like, theater seats. She's just laying it on the line. Like, she's not even being delicate. She's just like, ugh. I love that. I love that about her. Maybe that's it.
My favorite line from her, which I will explain, is when she first sees Jack. And she looks at him and she says, Is this the best you can look? And
you find that funny because
in real life, Ed Sheeran, the first manager he had, which was not the manager he's got now, from the record company, because he just looked like a regular dude. I mean, he still does, really, doesn't he?
He's lost a lot of weight since he first started.
He was a lot fatter then, and he wasn't fat, but he was not what you
smushy.
Know. And that lady said to him, "Is that the best you can look?" And I've seen him in an interview, and he was like, "I just didn't know how to I couldn't comprehend that somebody would just say that to you."
And like, how does this impact my music?
Yeah,
that would
exactly.
be my question. It's funny.
So yeah, she was very funny, Kate McKinnon.
Yeah.
If there's, she's different. She's really over the top.
I guess you could say where the roadie guy and the Gavin guy are sort of the British.
The Gavin guy didn't do anything for me.
No, but they're like the stereotypical dippy British guy, like totally either dippy and like really lanky and like what's the word? Like that Mr.
Stupid?
Bean kind of stupid. Yeah, like, what is the word? Slapsticky almost, like a cartoon but a real person, but the British version. And then she is like the American, like, oh my God, she's so awful. She's hilarious.
Yeah, I really liked her. She was very funny. Good choice for.
Yeah.
I mean, directed by Danny Boyle and written by Richard Curtis, their first teaming up. And they're very different. Danny Boyle wouldn't write a movie like this, I don't think, on his own. Because, as you know, he's kind of... I mean, Danny Boyle brought you Trainspotting and Shallow Grave and... Well, Slumdog Millionaire is kind of cutesy.
Yeah.
I think Slumdog Millionaire is the nearest to the kind of the vibe of this movie.
Like, horrible poverty is cutesy to you?
Yeah.
Not really.
But it had this overall look, like this. It was overall positive, wasn't it? It was kind of a positive thing. Whereas Shallow Grave's not very positive, and neither is Trainspotting, really.
True. But they are. They're like life affirming.
Right.
Maybe not Shallow Grave, but I mean, definitely Trainspotting gives you that like...
Millions was also...
oomph of, life is vibrant and amazing and it can suck, but look what there is. Life is like awesome.
Yeah, I'm a massive fan of Danny Boyle. Always have been. In fact...
Is that why you were so disappointed by The Beach?
The Beach was... I'd need to watch it again, but I really did not like that one. I don't think you did either, right?
I did not.
But I've liked everything else that Danny Boyle has done. I think he changed the zombie genre, didn't he, with his 28 Days Later? I mean...
I don't know about that.
I think that was
We don't have fast-moving
at
zombies now. Like, look at
I don't
Walking
just
Dead.
mean the fast... I think the way it was filmed, the suspense it had, the whole... We didn't expect a zombie movie from Danny Boyle, and that came along, and you were like, whoa, this is...
I don't think he changed the genre.
I think he changed... Well, I think Trainspotting is one of the best movies I've ever seen.
Yeah, again, I don't know that changed... What genre is that? Drama?
Yeah. I still think it is... It's so watchable still. It's 20 years old, right?
Absolutely.
I like the sequel as well.
You do, but if you had to choose which one you're going to watch again.
It would always be the original, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like Star Wars.
Which Star Wars would you watch? If
A
you
New
had to
Hope,
choose?
always. If you say, like, you can watch anything of Star Wars, it's always A New Hope. Always.
Oh, really? Not The Empire Strikes Back? Or
No. I think Empire Strikes Back is a lot of people's favourite movie. And I love it too. I see it just as an extension, but the first Star Wars movie I saw, and I saw it so many times, was A New Hope, and I kind of know it back to front.
I think we should make this our new thing, our new hook for our podcast, is that no matter what we're talking about, you can always bring it back to Star Wars.
Yeah, probably.
That we're like always 2 degrees from Star Wars. Like there's always something you can go, yeah, but in Star Wars.
So now Disney own
true.
Star Wars. Maybe Danny Boyle can direct a Disney Star Wars.
This wasn't
film.
Disney, this was Universal.
No, I mean, maybe Danny Boyle doesn't work for a particular studio, but he could
he could do it no matter who owns it then.
It could be a Disney. No, I mean, what I mean is now Disney own them. The new Star Wars films get made, and those TV shows get made, and
I think we've had enough Star Wars.
Oh no, we're only just starting.
Oh my God. Only just started for 40 years. We're only just getting started.
We've got The Mandalorian coming up. We've got,
No, I don't. I only know what you tell me, and then it just goes right out of my brain.
Well, I'll tell you. We got the final episode of the Skywalker trilogy. How many movies? 9 movies.
Mm-hmm.
That coming in December. And we've got The Mandalorian coming in October, I think. So, yes.
So, in future podcasts, look for this. Whatever we're talking about, it will loop back to Star Wars.
It will. That's actually a thing on Half in the Bag, the movie review show I watch on YouTube. You watched them doing the Gremlins special last week. You watched that with me, right?
Mm-hmm.
Those two guys.
They're funny.
I love their discussion of film. They're real deep into like certain things, and the joke with them is Mike, who's the guy on the left. He is a encyclopedic knowledge person of Star Trek, and Jay's thing is Mike will always bring everything to Star Trek. Like he'll go, yeah, in that Next Generation episode when blah, blah, blah.
But I do
That's
that.
exactly like Groundhog
What do I
Day.
do that with?
You do it with Bob's Burgers.
Yeah. Because like everything you can say, I can find a couple of steps back and I'll go, oh, on this one episode of Bob's Burgers, Louise says whatever. So we've all got our thing.
So Danny Boyle.
But notice how none of what we do goes back to the Beatles.
Yeah. Danny Boyle has a filmmaking style. He likes to use a lot of crooked camera shots, and in this one he uses like a blurred image in the mirror. Like I thought it was a bit overly used.
Well, it's just whenever someone comes through the door. I think the idea was that by the time Ed Sheeran comes and he's that guy, you're supposed to have a split second where you think, oh, we're never going to see this guy.
Yeah.
He's probably not even Ed Sheeran. And then it's revealed that he is. I think that's what that whole gag was about.
Yeah. But Danny Boyle he does a few crooked shots. He does that interesting, like when they're in the tunnel where the letters are running down the tunnel and stuff.
Yeah.
There's quite a bit of that where there's, you're in a place and then the letters of the place are in the scene so you can see what, because you might not know what that train station is or whatever. So he does some Danny Boyle-y stuff, not quite as much as he does in like Trainspotting. I mean, it's a bit more plain, isn't it? Directed. Yeah. But I think
its artsy moments, but then a lot of just straightforward filmmaking. Because Love Actually, there's no artsy fartsy. No. Yeah, there's nothing in Richard Curtis movies that's like
that's
anything. There's there's no camera trickery or anything. I mean, it's like an old-fashioned movie where there's a camera sitting there. I don't even know if there's any motion. Hardly ever. It's just you set it up for the 2-person shot or the 1-person shot, and that's it. You get maybe another view of it back and forth through the scene, but he's pretty straightforward. So Danny Boyle kind of mixed those two together.
Yeah. But I think he did a good job, and like I say, it's not changed my mind on Danny Boyle. I mean, if anything, it makes me like him even more, this movie. So what are IMDb reviews?
Well, in general, they are when people go on IMDb and write reviews. Yes. But for this segment, you go out and find 1-star reviews by people who dislike the thing that we've just watched. Usually we like it more than they do. So we disagree with what they say, but occasionally they get it pretty right. So the question is, maybe they're right all the time and we're wrong. You know what I'm saying?
We're only wrong 60% of the time.
100% of the time. We're right 60% of the time.
Correct.
Another movie reference. So you also like to do a funny voice when you read these reviews? So
I just feel that this is how those people sound.
Okay.
So no, I will reference this with, you said a 9.5 probably for this movie. I would be right up there with you. Okay. I could watch it again and I think I'd feel just as good watching it. It's got like a feel-good vibe to it.
Agree.
So we're on the upward scale of this movie, and these people are on the lowest rung of the ladder. So let's read what they say. Number 1 says, story was bad, the jokes were not funny, and the acting was horrible. Concept 10, execution 1. You made it into like a sports game.
Yeah.
This guy says, vomit-inducing.
Oh my.
I thought this was an unwatchable pile of tosh. Richard.
Okay, he's British.
Yeah. Richard
American people
Curtis.
don't say Tosh.
I expected that of him, but Danny Boyle, how can the guy who directed Trainspotting and Slumdog Millionaire hang your head in shame?
Damn.
This guy says, don't bother. That's it.
Oh, you know what? It's short and to the point. But I like a reason. So if you could give me a reason not to bother, that'd be great.
Spoilers. Did we mention that John Lennon is a character?
Oh, John Lennon's in the movie.
He is.
Like actual John Lennon.
I mean, like we said, this movie's a bit magical, and John Lennon, the character of John Lennon appears in this movie not in a flashback. Mm-hmm. And he's played by?
It's unlisted.
But who is he?
Begbie.
Robert Carlyle.
Begbie from Trainspotting.
Anyway, this guy has something to say about it.
Or nowadays, people would know him as whoever he is on Once Upon a Time. Probably.
Yeah, true. I have no idea.
I don't either.
Some guy in a long coat in the forest.
And that's one of those moments that got super emotional. Not because it's John Lennon, and it's not John Lennon. It's someone playing him, and it seemed a bit raunchy on the makeup. Just a little bit, but not too bad. But the idea that you're the only person who knows that this person got a whole chance at his life. He didn't get gunned down outside of his apartment when he was, 40 years old instead.
Right.
But then after I got emotional about it, then I instantly thought, what about all the other people? How did all the rest of the world work out with this thing?
Yeah, true.
Did all the other people who died?
Because John Lennon would have been dead in the 70s, right? Mm-hmm. And then this guy falls off his bike and...
It was in the 70s.
Was it late
this
70s,
was now.
early 80s?
This movie?
No, when John Lennon died.
80s. 1980.
So John Lennon, what I was explaining was, John Lennon would have died in the 80s. Yet in this movie, in the timeline...
Yeah, but he only died because he was a Beatle.
He is not dead.
Yeah, but he only died because he was a Beatle and he was famous and the guy had a thing and all that. So
in this movie, John Lennon exists, but
because
he's
the Beatles never existed.
He's a different version of John Lennon.
Well, he's him.
He's still married to Yoko Ono, I was guessing.
No, I don't think so.
He mentioned his wife.
He said the love of his life.
Yeah.
But he was married before her also, I think. Well, that's what he has. He has Julian's mother was different. But it's not a different version of John Lennon.
Julian's mother's Yoko.
No, it isn't. The younger one is Yoko's son.
Oh, I thought they both were.
Don't think so. I don't believe so.
Anyway, it's an alternate time.
He's not an alternate person, though. It's just like
not
the Beatles never existed. Therefore, John Lennon just went on with his life as like he was a fisherman maybe, but he was on boats because everything around his house is boat related. And he said, I've been around the world on the ocean. So somebody figured out that would have possibly been what John Lennon would have been, maybe possibly in the realms of fictional reality, instead of being in a band.
And when it showed you his kitchen table, it had, those little drawings that from John Lennon where he drew himself with the glasses and stuff. There was some of that around.
And painting. He was painting when he came to the door.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So the stuff I really like that scene. I was like, well, is this gone a bit too far? I was thinking.
It felt like that just a tiny bit. But then I thought, what about the others?
Yeah.
Where's Paul? Paul never died.
Right.
What is he? When Paul woke up the moment that weird thing happened, did he forget he was that?
Yeah, well, yeah.
Did he wake up in a mansion but then all his money's gone? Because the Beatles didn't exist. So what's Paul? So I was overthinking it, but still.
Right.
If you're showing me John Lennon is still alive, then I need to know where the other three are.
So this guy says, it's the worst movie I've seen in a long time. The storyline was predictable and honestly really cheesy and lame. The best thing of it was obviously the soundtrack, just because of the Beatles, really. Besides that, they did was ridiculous. Has a Beatles fan, a Beatles fan, I consider that scene of John Lennon absurd. I felt offended. Basically, it's a dishonor to the Beatles and to the fans. I don't recommend it. I wish I hadn't seen it.
I don't feel like it's a dishonor. In fact, I think it's like saying directly to Paul and Ringo, who are the only two still alive, correct?
Yes.
The impact that you've had on humanity.
It's the biggest tribute you could possibly
it's so huge that I'm making this movie to show the world how important you are. Like, that is what this movie is, like a love letter to, like, oh my God, I can't even imagine a world without the Beatles, which is how Richard Curtis is. He's a huge Beatles fan, right? So I imagine that's crossed his mind. Like, if my life didn't have the Beatles in it. So. And
this might be the greatest 1-star IMDb review ever.
Okay.
I'm not hyping it.
Damn.
I think this might be the greatest ever.
Ever.
Yes.
Okay.
And this is for the movie Yesterday. And this is it. Are you ready?
Okay.
Yet another movie about a hapless Asian courting a Caucasian girl.
Oh my God.
And she even has her finger in her mouth on the poster. Seriously?
What's that? What does that even mean? What the hell?
All right. I can't
what kind of baggage do people bring with them?
She does have a finger
to their
in her mouth
entertainment experience.
But what are you even thinking?
Also, what kind of prejudice is that? And yet another. Like, are you racking them up? Is there a list somewhere where, oh my word, and her finger, is that like?
I don't even know what that means. But yes,
that is
the movie
hilarious.
poster. The movie poster. No, you don't. Look at the movie poster. Is a finger in her mouth?
Looks like it. Yeah. Well, it's up to her mouth, but I don't know what that even means.
I don't even know what it means. That's why I vote that as my favorite review of this movie.
Well, that anyone brings their personal prejudice, and we have this in some other 1-star reviews where people say, "Oh, another man-hating movie. Oh, another one where a woman is the hero." Like
Anna,
that'll ever
we watched
happen.
last week.
Yeah, or like any of these racial things. Like, are you just actively, you have like a heat-seeking missile in your brain to find a confirmation bias for your own prejudices in the world, and then everything offends you because it isn't that.
Right.
Like, what the fuck is wrong with people?
I don't know, but it was very weird.
But you know what? They took the time to go on IMDb and type all that up with their little thumb probably on their stupid phone. And then they hit send and they feel a lot better about themselves.
Stupid heads. All right.
Oh my God.
Yeah, that was a pretty good one. I liked it.
Hilarious.
So, in conclusion, there are extras on the Blu-ray, actually. Let's get into those. There are alternate ending, which is interesting, the alternate ending, I think.
I mean, it's the same thing. It's
they
just
twisted around
tiny
a little bit.
little twists where you go, oh.
Yeah, but it's worth watching because it adds another thing to your mind where you're like, oh, okay. And if they were ever going to make a sequel, that alternate ending is the perfect.
Why would they make a sequel?
They wouldn't.
Okay.
But I'm saying that is almost like, hey, this is what we could do. There's deleted scenes. There are quite a lot of them. Some are quite good. Some are, you can see why they took them out.
Yeah.
There's Beatles music performed by Hamish Patel, and it's at Abbey Road Studios, and they're basically like music videos, but he's singing the songs from the movie. There's Ed Sheeran from Stadium to Screen, which is exactly what it says on the tin. There's the agent of comedy, Kate McKinnon, which is focusing on her. And there is Live at Abbey Road Studios and more. So yeah, there is a bunch of stuff. Interestingly, when you finish watching the movie and the credits roll, it goes straight into the extras.
Yeah,
you don't
I
have
like
to choose
that kind of.
Yeah. So I really loved it. Thanks to Universal. It's one of my favorite feel-good. I felt good watching it. You know what I mean? That's a good thing, isn't it?
Yeah, it feels good and weird. Like, wow, what if? What if?
So next week, next week's movie, we probably won't feel good watching, but it is what was my favorite movie of last year?
Of all of last year? I don't remember.
It was Hereditary.
Oh, was that your number one?
Yeah, that was last year.
Like when we talked about our number one movies of all of last year, that was your number one?
It was my number one, yeah. I said to you...
I question your judgment, but okay.
It's a horror classic to me.
It's not better than every other movie we watched. That is not even reasonable.
I really loved it.
I understand that you loved it, but that doesn't make it better than all the other.
Maybe
50.
It wasn't my number one movie. It was in my top 10.
Yeah, I don't think it was your number one.
It was pretty close. If
anyone wants to go back
to the episode, you have some kind of spreadsheet, don't you?
Not of your number ones.
What?
Oh, hey, don't put it on just because I'm the spreadsheet queen, and I do have a spreadsheet of everything we're saying.
You
right
make
now.
a spreadsheet, but only put your.
Yes.
That's pointless.
Because it's too much.
It's not all about you. Anyway, I will go as far to say...
That's hilarious.
Even if it wasn't my favourite movie of last year, it's one of my favourite horror movies, period. So, the guy who made it, Ari Aster, has made a new movie called Midsummer, and we'll be looking at that next week. And I'm sure we won't have the good feelings like we did from yesterday. It will probably...
The good feelings.
The opposite of the good feelings. Even though we might love it. We don't know.
You never know.
Midsummer, next week. Movie recommendations, I am going on the theme of yesterday. And I'll go for a film that I really liked Lily James in, and it's called Baby Driver by Edgar Wright. I think it's a really cool...
That's a fun one.
Yeah.
John Hamm.
Unfortunately, Kevin Spacey now.
Well, I mean, I don't know. I can't condemn the man. I wasn't there. I do not know. No. So but I don't know if that's a fair statement.
I think Baby Driver is a really excellent... It's a heist car chase musical. It's got a lot of music. It's really a really interesting, cool movie. I'll also recommend EastEnders, which is a British TV show, because of Hamish Patel. You have to go back and watch older episodes if you want to see him in it. And finally, I'm doing 3 this week. Trainspotting, my favourite Danny Boyle movie. I don't think he'll ever top Trainspotting for me, but...
So you're going to just give up? Stop trying?
I was going to say it was the first one I saw, but it wasn't. Shallow Grave was, which I also think is fantastic.
You didn't see In Life Less Ordinary?
That was after Trainspotting.
After Trainspotting?
Yes.
Really?
Yes. Shallow Grave was first, then Trainspotting.
Oh, wow. I thought A Life Less Ordinary was like first.
No.
Interesting.
But
How
I also
wrong
like that
I
one
can
too.
be. Sometimes.
So your recommendations
My recommendations are... Because we were reading the stuff, all the trivia, and one of them said that Danny Boyle was asked to be director on a whole bunch of movies, of course, because why wouldn't you ask, right? But one of them was Alien Resurrection, which I'm not recommending, except I love all Alien movies, Alien and Predator movies, regardless of the quality. But I'm going to go back to the original Alien, because it did change the thing, horror and space combined, and the vibe of it, and it's so good. It's so good, isn't it? It's definitively good. You can't
with The
tell
Exorcist, it is up there as the...
It is, because it's just so different. And maybe that's not a good measure of goodness, but Alien, definitely. The original Ripley in her underwear.
Aliens is also good.
Aliens is good, but it's, it's different. Very different from Alien. Alien has that thing, that magic, and now I want to watch it. And the other one is one that you mentioned already, but 28 Days Later, simply because I love zombie movies and Danny Boyle did a zombie movie.
How about 28 Weeks Later?
That was all right, but it didn't have the same, whoa, as 28 Days Later, because that introduced us to a different kind of zombie, a different reason for zombiness, people's different way of coping with it, in a very modern, I don't know what year it was, but...
Begbie was in the second one, right?
He was, yeah. Well, he wasn't Begbie, but yeah.
Yeah, he's a favourite, isn't he? He's one of Danny's favourites.
And now he's John Lennon.
So, that is our recommendations. A Scully stuff I've been playing on the Xbox Game Pass, which I'm still using that free trial of, which is the gift that keeps on giving. It costs $1. And I've got a whole library of games to play. So the game I'm playing at the moment is Dirt Rally 2.0, which is a rally racing game, which is very, very good. I would highly recommend it. Codemasters. It's free on this service. You can actually get this service still for $1. I think you get... It's a weird way you have to go about it, but you pay $1 and then you upgrade your membership. And then it upgrades your membership and gives you 6 months of it for $1. So it will charge you in February when it runs out, but you can also go in your account and say cancel it in February. So I've got the feeling I might keep it. You know what I'm saying? I feel like it's worth it because there's a lot of games on there that I like, and they keep adding games all the time. But Dirt Rally 2.0 is rally racing. It's very realistic. It's quite difficult. I want to race right now. Now I'm thinking about it.
I want to watch Alien, so screw it. We're not eating supper, and we're not continuing with this day after this really podcast. Fun. We're just doing our own thing.
So that's what I've been playing. I've also been playing Mario Kart World Tour on Android. It's out on iPhone as well. It's really interesting. It's Mario Kart. It's kind of fun to play, but it's got all that microtransaction crap that I didn't think Nintendo would be into. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's like, do you want another race? Well, you either wait for an hour for your fuel to fill back up, or you can pay some money and race. I don't like that. It's kind of annoying. So, there's better Mario Kart games to play. Just go and play like one on the Game Boy or the Wii or the... What else? Well, there's Mario Kart games on any Nintendo system that are better than this one. So I know this one's free, but it's not really free when you have to wait to play. So what's for dinner?
Impossible Whopper.
It's impossible.
It's impossible. It's not impossible. It's more difficult than our normal supper because it's way the fuck across town. But hey, it's the Impossible Burger. It's worth it.
It's really yummy.
It is really good. I don't think we'll get a salad this time, though, but we need something else with it.
We had a salad last time, didn't we?
Yeah, but it's kind of scraggly. I wasn't a huge fan.
I kind of liked it because it had that ranch with it.
Okay, well, I can get you one. But I need something else. And French fries don't taste very good to me anymore, so don't know what I'll do.
All right, so what is your advice? And then we'll bugger off and eat an Impossible
My
Burger.
advice isn't really advice. It's just, this is it. This is it, right? This is it. This is life. This is what you get. When you start thinking, because I don't remember who I wrote an email to, just a young lady I found on YouTube who does videos of a subject that I've never even known anything about. I'm just interested, and she's going to school and she's trying to do her YouTube. And, she said she really appreciated my email when I sent her about just that I really appreciated the time that she took and how she did her videos, and that she's working.
Who was this?
Her name is Gather Time, I think is her channel.
Oh, fancy.
And she's into Wiccan, I think, because she's explained that she doesn't really believe in a lot of the things, but she lives her life very naturally in Mother Earth and all the rituals and burning sage and stuff. I believe in nothing. So I'm interested in anyone who has a thing that they believe in and all that kind of stuff. So I just was trying to learn about herbalism, which as in what herbs have medical properties. And I came across her and I was interested, and I was encouraging her because I really like her delivery and the way she does it. And then she said she really appreciated it, that everything was getting on top of her, and she's tired and blah, blah, blah. And I just wrote her back. And my thing about life is, and this might be partly because I've always been very self-absorbed. I accept that. I'm a very now kind of a person. Immediate gratification is like my middle name, except it's Lee, but it's actually immediate gratification. Like, if my mother could have given me that as a middle name, it would be Cindy Immediate Gratification. Yes, that is her. Cindy IM. Or IG? IG, right? That sounds pretty cool.
Instagram.
The original IG. That's what you can call me. And I've always been that way. Now. Right here, right now. And so what that's done in my life is when something even begins to feel like something I don't want to do, or I don't like, or it's boring, or it's like, ugh, I just want out. I want out immediately. And I've done that a lot of my life. I never had children because I was like, oh God, there's no way. There's no way I can commit to that. There's no way. I mean, I barely hang on to marriage as an institution. And you're the one I'm married to. But that's because it works right. Our personalities work right together. Any other definition of marriage, like my first marriage, that doesn't work. I'm out. Took a year.
You've had another marriage? Spoilers.
Spoiler, you're number 2. You're current number 2. We're going to say you're the last husband I'll ever have.
Oh.
But I mean, who knows?
That's really sweet.
Who knows the future, right?
That's so sweet.
You didn't hear that last part. Spoiler, you never know.
But you're my only one.
That's true. I'm your one and only. But you're a little more settled than me, and you can put up with bullshit things, and you're kind of like, this all sounds very rude, but you're a little more wishy-washy than me. You'll kind of take a little bit of punishment or boringness or whatever.
Thanks.
That's just the way it is. Well, there are a lot of people like you in the world, and I'm not that person. And so this has led me to a philosophy in life where I do a lot of things I don't like. I mean, I've dealt with death, of immediate death right in my lap. I've dealt with sickness. I've dealt with sadness in life. I've dealt with my own like addiction problems in the past. Like all kinds of bad things happen in life. That's the way it is. You deal with it. I don't just avoid things. I'm a confrontational person, but I want to get it over with and move on. Like that's how I am. So I think that's formed this philosophy I have that this is it. This moment right now, if I'm sitting at my job and something is stressing me out or boring me to tears or making me feel pressured in any way whatsoever, that moment, I'm still living my life. My life didn't get a pause button when I walked in the door of the building at work. And it won't just resume when I leave that building. My life is happening right now. This is it. And if I'm miserable in this moment, yes, there can be times in life when it's caused by another person directly. So I will not address things like people who are horrible, abusive, dangerous, criminals, people who are abusing, attacking people. That is a different subject, a different thing in life. I'm talking about your normal, everyday, average, living your life. Like even with a miserable spouse. My first spouse was a jerk. He was an angry, pathetic little man. Like that's just how he was. So the idea that I would ever put up with that for any longer than I did, it was like insanely impossible to me. There's no way. There's no way. I'm out, right? I'm out because that was my life. I was trading the time of my life for someone else's misery or to let it affect me was not going to happen. And so I think that at work, I'm doing my tasks at work. I get really good at my tasks at work for the most part. You know, as best as I can. I've done it 20 years and I like to learn new tasks. So I get really good at the tasks. It's very technical. It's a data center. You know, it's computery stuff. And then if anything else, because recently I've had to deal with it. This change in management, change in the structure, and a different vibe, what I was not happy with. Was I? I was not happy with it. And so that thing comes upon me like, I need to escape. I need to get the fuck out of here because this is not happening. I will not be miserable on someone else's time and my time. So I had to think about it and realize, yeah, this philosophy is right this minute. If I'm sitting at work and the person comes in who makes me have that feeling of like stress or anger, I have to just let that go because this moment could be my last moment. I could literally drop dead of a heart attack at any time. I mean, it's possible. Or a stroke or something horrible like that. I could be driving home at the end of that day and die in a car wreck, right? That sounds really cheery and everything. But if that conversation and I let that get me down for the rest of those 12 hours, I do 12-hour shifts, then I've just sold off the potential happiness of the end of my life. Just some bullshit stress that doesn't really even exist, right? It's just in my mind.
True.
So like, this is it. This is your life. You're living it. Try to find some value and some little handles to grab onto, even in the worst moment, to just lift you up or pull you forward, whatever it is.
You could probably incorporate the word yesterday into this somehow.
How so? Yesterday.
But I don't.
All my troubles seem so far away. But did they? I think no one ever really feels that way. But just if you can, if you're bored of studying or your job sucks because you're just working at a factory and you think that sucks. I don't know if it sucks. It might be great. Or you're doing a job. You could be like a famous writer or a musician, or you could be the person who is doing all the science to cure cancer. And yet you could actually be bored. Right? That could be boring.
True.
The end result might be fantastic, but in the time between here and then, it could be like the most monotonous thing ever. If you can find some value, something funny, something fun, something uplifting to get through this minute and then the next minute and the next minute, before you know it, you've cured cancer and you've had a good time. So,
Yep.
Win-win.
All right. So
is that advice?
Yes.
Okay.
Another win-win is this podcast. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, you pulled it right around there.
I did. If you, I told you at the beginning of the show how to subscribe. We're everywhere except Spotify.
We're everywhere.
You can catch Sid Talk and me on Instagram. You can
I do my Instagram. I post a lot of pictures of plants.
On the gram, at the IG.
I'm the original IG we've just established.
True.
Instant gratification woman.
You can also email feedback to me at ascully@ascully.com. Don't email Sid Talk. And
I mean, you can. Good luck with that.
stay classy. Everybody involved in this movie. The Beatles.
Thank you, Beatles.
I was about to say Danny Dyer, but he's nothing to do with it. Danny Boyle. Richard Curtis. Hamish Patel. Lily James. Ed Sheeran. Joel Frye.
We could
Kate
pull it
McKinnon.
around to Danny Dyer because Danny Dyer loves Oasis.
He does. Oh, Oasis
is
don't
inspired
exist in this movie.
I know, because they were totally inspired by the Beatles. I feel like that was just a little nudge to them, like, you guys really, without the Beatles, you'd be nothing, which is hilarious.
True.
And I'm going to say, think for yourself or someone will do it for you.